Yeah, new Dead Rising Remaster was not something I expected to be announced out of the blue like that. After a long night of chasing women through dark alleyways, I retired to my incel lair to lay myself down to rest. When I opened up YouTube to listen to some girlfriend experience ASMR, I was surprised to see the teaser trailer for Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster on my front page. Now, a Dead Rising remake in the RE engine has been something that I've been wishing for since the Resident Evil remakes came back out in 2019, so it immediately grabbed my interest. I should mention that I haven't seen any information that states what engine this will actually be on, so we'll just wait until we get confirmation before saying this is 100% the RE engine. Anyways, the teaser has been in the front of my mind all day. I'm simultaneously hyped and worried about the prospects of this new take on Dead Rising. Considering I'm the channel's designated Dead Rising content creator, I figured that I should put out a video with my thoughts on the remake and to hop on that sweet algorithm for discussing something relevant. By the way, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I'm just wanting to let you guys know that the next video in our Dead Rising Challenge series will be out in mid to late July. So look forward to Can You Beat Dead Rising 3 as a diversity hire very soon. Alright, now without further ado, let's get into my thoughts and fears for the upcoming game. First, I've got to say that the new graphics look pretty damn good, as expected of what I'm assuming to be the RE engine. I know all we have at the moment is a brief glimpse at the opening cutscene of the game and a few screenshots of the entrance plaza, but the graphical upgrade is A tier. It looks like they're going to keep the art style of the original game, for the most part, but we'll get to that in a bit. I don't know if there's a name for this sort of thing, but the original Dead Rising had a particular look to it. The game was made by Japanese people who did a good job emulating the incredibly American concept of a shopping mall, but still had things that were slightly off due to the fact that it was made by somebody on the outside looking in. The mall is almost a parody of the average American mall at the time. It's massive. There's a friggin' roller coaster, massive supermarket, and even a gun store inside. 3 of the most American things you can put within a mall. A giant statue of the mall's mascot greets you as you walk in. Paradise Plaza always reminded me of that Frutiger, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the Frutiger Arrow aesthetic with its water fixtures and fountains. To briefly describe this aesthetic that I'm trying to articulate here, it's a somewhat exaggerated look at Americana through the eyes of a Japanese game developer. It's still realistic to an extent. I mean, with some changes, the Willamette Parkview Mall could definitely be a real place, but it's exaggerated in a just somewhat slightly foreign way that seems almost dreamlike. I don't know. Maybe this is just a me thing. The only other thing that gives me the same vibe is Raccoon City from the Resident Evil games and from the remakes. Tangent aside, I'm glad that that kind of aesthetic is still around from what I can see. What makes me worried for the game is the changes they made to Frank himself. I'll say now that the visual changes, while jarring, are tolerable. I mean, in the first shot here, he looks okay. Maybe his head's a little big, but all in all, he looks okay here. But here, the shot here where he's jumping out of the chopper, what the fuck is going on with him here? He looks like the Joker from the Arkham series. Frank has never been particularly handsome or anything, but here he outright just looks like an ogre. I don't care that he looks closer to his beta appearance, he looks way too off-putting here. On top of that, the voice actor for Frank seems to have been changed. Instead of the guy who normally voices Frank, TJ Rotolo, they got some guy doing a New York accent. Now, truth be told, these things I can deal with, but the fact that they changed the franchise's most iconic character are giving me flashbacks to Dead Rising 4, and that is unironically making me doubt the dev team and how they're going to handle the game. Okay, bear with my schizo rant here for a second, but the changes that they're making to Frank give me reason to believe that changing anything is on the table. I am not trying to sound like some sort of Dead Rising purist here, as honestly, I can handle Frank, looking like some sort of weird goblin creature while sounding like a Sopranos side character. That's not a big problem. The problem with this change in Frank's voice and face and all that is that I think that they might be trying to go the Dead Rising 4 route, and by changing the most, iconic character of the series into something more, acceptable to wider audiences. Now, we don't have a lot of info for the remaster, we only have 40 seconds of footage, and we won't get much more until the Capcom Next showcase thing, whatever you call it, on the 1st of July. So, Dead Rising as a franchise has been dead since the god-awful release of Dead Rising 4 back in 2016. That game had an infamously rough development cycle, but we're gonna skip over the myriad of issues that caused the final product and leave it at this. Dead Rising 4 did not understand what made the previous games, even 3, even though it was less of that sort of charm that the original games had, unique and loved by the fans. The game was simply an open world game where you mindlessly go around killing zombies and doing story missions at your own leisure. No unique cycle boss fights, no timer forcing you to use your time wisely. I mean, hell, you don't even have to worry about inventory space, as you have multiple slots for food, melee weapons, and ranged weapons. It was the lowest point in the series. Dead Rising 4 had none of what makes a Dead Rising game a Dead Rising game. Now, while I believe that the upcoming remaster won't be anywhere near as bad as 4, I mean, it would be really hard to fuck up the game as badly as 4 was. The game absolutely must keep the identity of the first game if this is going to be successful. Now you might be wondering, what do I consider to be the identity of Dead Rising? Well, what I believe makes a Dead Rising game is the feeling of desperation you constantly have throughout it, and the feeling you get when you overcome the challenges presented by the game. The time limit has filtered countless people over the last 18 years, but it is absolutely integral for the unique feeling of the game. This forces you to think fast as to what your next move is going to be. Do you risk going to do some of the side quests for extra PP while you have a small amount of time to spare before the timer on the next main scoop runs out? Do you forgo any side missions while possibly underleveling yourself for later days when the timer gets even more tight and stronger enemies like the cultists spawn in? This time management might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it is absolutely needed to make the game challenging and engaging. Feeding into this is the fact that you must improvise most of your weaponry. You can stick with a few options you know can get you through crowds of zombies and take out psychopaths easier, but what happens when your weapon breaks and you're stuck with whatever you have around you in something like a sporting goods store or a furniture store? Once again, the desperation the game makes you feel makes you think on your feet. Plan ahead, and try to learn the best spots for weapons and survivor escorts. I believe what also really ties all of these elements together is the serious tone of the main story. The characters react realistically enough to the situation to make you feel like you've got to get the story and then get the hell out of Willamette. Unless you decide to ignore everything and go to the cutscenes wearing funny clothes. Of course, as time goes on and you learn more and more about the game, the feeling of desperation gives way to the next integral part of Dead Rising's identity, the reward. After taking advantage of the game's new Game Plus feature, you are finally tough and fast enough to make it through the missions faster, allowing you more time for future main and side missions. You've learned what the best weapons to carry are and how to keep them for longer. I know everybody's thinking about the small chainsaw with all 3 of the durability books, but let's pretend, that we're, playing the game for the first time and we don't know anything. On top of all of that, you're getting deeper into the rabbit hole and uncovering the story of the outbreak until you reach the truth. Now, overcoming the desperation and learning more about the game is the real reward of Dead Rising. It is absolutely imperative that Capcom keeps this feeling around. Throughout the rest of the franchise, the game slowly devolved into killing zombies with no thought in it. Dead Rising 3, despite the fact I actually kind of like that game, is the worst offender of the tolerable games in this franchise. TLDR, I'm worried that the changes made to Frank are the harbinger of a more casualized remake that repeats the same mistakes that ended up killing the franchise. I wouldn't mind an easy mode as an option if they are gonna, try to appeal to normies, but don't make it the main game. Let everyone know that the original mode is what is meant to be experienced. One more thing before we wrap up, but we've really gotta keep the funny haha wacky bullshit down to like a minimum here. 4 was the worst offender, of course, but I've been playing through 3 and I find it hard to take the story seriously when immediately after a dramatic cutscene where a main character dies or something, you can get into a combo weapon that lets you fly around and shoot fireworks at zombies or something. Now, if this game is a reboot for the franchise, like I've been hearing rumors for, let's keep all of the wacky shit down to a minimum, seriously. I don't hate combo weapons, but if we're gonna move forward with more games in the franchise, let's keep them a tad bit more grounded. We should have more weapons like the Defiler, the plate launcher, and less like the stupid grenade taped to a sledgehammer or the retarded flame dragon, please. And one more thing. If they get rid of the panty zombies, remove Cheryl's photo shoot, make Isabella look like an aging millennial woman, or have Jesse covered up and voiced by this dude, I'm gonna go into Capcom's offices with... and... Anyways, those are my thoughts on the upcoming Dead Rising remake. If anything crazy comes out on the live stream, I'll probably make another video voicing my opinion as to what's going on. This is Pig from Cum Dungeon Gaming, also that's what I'm calling myself, hello. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.